All right, so New Hampshire's showing up a lot in the news right now because we have a whole bunch of stupid stuff happening here, from a new ICE facility that's being proposed to state legislators that are talking about resegregating schools or whatever. So this is for the people that are not from New Hampshire. And if you're wondering why is New Hampshire so fucked up, here's a little bit of backstory. In about 2001, this group called the Free State Project decided that they wanted to pick a state in the U.S. that was most amenable to libertarian capture, essentially. Around 2003, they landed on choosing New Hampshire as the state that they would all move to. They needed 20,000 people to move into the state in order to start taking over the government. We had a governor at the time, Craig Benson, who actively invited them. He's known as one of the worst governors we've ever had in the state. The guy didn't even last more than 2 years. Anyways, fast forward to today. The Free State Project managed to bring a lot of people into the state of New Hampshire. They made it so that you would have people running for state representative positions that would be Free State Project, but run under both Democrat and Republican banners. So you end up with this sort of supposedly decentralized group of people that share what they believe is a continuous ideology for liberty, freedom, property rights. Okay, so that's what's going on there, and there's important context that people think New Hampshire's a blue state because they see our national delegation, which is mostly Democrats. It's been mostly Democratic for quite a while now. But the reality is that inside the state, we've been run by Republicans for a very long time. And the Republicans have held power in all of the branches of government for the most part for the past, 2 decades. We've managed to have some Democratic governors during that time, but generally speaking, there's always a lockup in terms of the actual governance of the state. You pretty much always got at least 1 or 2 chambers of the state Congress that are controlled by the conservatives. And on top of that, we don't have any income tax. We don't have any sales tax. So everything gets done with property tax. And a lot of times, because everybody's so enamored by this idea that we don't have these broad-based taxes, what happens is that we get a lot of state fees, right? You get a lot of registrations and things like that that you have to pay for, which a lot of the libertarians are not necessarily a fan of, but oftentimes don't really have an actual answer for that, right? So as this has sort of developed, we also watch a lot of the libertarians become increasingly authoritarian and racist, which is inherently counter to their ideology as they espouse it. But if you know anything about libertarians, you know that they fight with each other all the time. It's virtually impossible for them to agree on anything. So there's a lot of internal conflict. But if you've ever seen any posts on Reddit or whatever, you'd probably notice that the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire is like a joke for libertarians. And a lot of them find that the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire gives them really bad optics. So because of this capture, we've sort of degraded into what they might envision as a libertarian utopia. That was the goal of the Free State Project. And you got a lot of people that are from the Free State Project that didn't understand what the project was, moved here as Free Staters, and then ended up leaving the movement because they didn't agree with what was being dictated to them. So it's kind of a mess. There's a really funny story about a town called Croydon that was taken over by bears because the libertarians took over the town and then didn't manage anything, and then all of a sudden the bears came in and messed everything up. It's pretty funny. But it's important to think about all this stuff because we are sort of a testing ground for a lot of really, really terrible legislation. If anybody's familiar with the concept of voucher programs, we're apex on that here. We definitely have really embodied the concept of a school voucher program that takes public school dollars and sends it to homeschool parents, private religious schools, whatever. They just recently, there was a cap on that. They removed the cap. So now the wealthiest New Hampshire people, the Granite Staters as we call ourselves, are able to capture state funds to subsidize their children going to religious schools. This is all very complicated, and there's a lot more to this story, but this video is already way too long, and I just felt like it was probably important to come in and just kind of point some of this stuff out for folks.